Good morning. This is Thursday morning, October the 15th. This is primarily for our virtual students to explain just a few quick things about upcoming assignments. I'm talking about assignments ER-2, ER-3, and ER-4. ER standing for Ecological Relationships, which is our second module in ecology. Most of these you should be able to do at home, self-paced without too much problem, but let me just point out a couple of things that might make life just a little bit easier. So let me share my screen. So the first one we're going to talk about is this one on competition and competitive exclusion, ER-2. So if I open that up, what we're going to be doing, so make sure you read the background information, respond accordingly. And what we're going to be doing in this activity is we're looking at competition. So we're going from populations to communities. Community is a bigger lens. A community by definition is all the populations living in the same area at the same time. So when in any environment, you have many different populations all living in the same space, sharing the same resources. When you have to live in the same space and share the same resources, you're going to have interactions with each other. You're going to have interactions with each other. And as you have interactions with other organisms, you form relationships. And so this section is often referred to as community interactions or ecological relationships. As a student in the building, you walk around the building, you go into different classes, and you have interactions. Some of those interactions are intentional. Some of those interactions are very short and brief. Some of those interactions lead to long-term relationships. Similar idea. So we are going to do an analogy to look at the most common interaction that we see in the environment. And the most common interaction we see in the environment is competition. Competition occurs when two or more species want the same resources and there's not enough resource to go around, which is very, very typical in nature. So most ecosystems have a limited number of resources, as we've been talking about. Those limited resources typically determine a carrying capacity, and populations need to learn to, what we say, coexist, live with each other within that carrying capacity. And that's a very delicate balance that is worked out over time between species. So in this particular activity, we are going to compare fast food restaurants, which we're going to refer to as FFRs, and their menu and competition for money as an analogy to organisms and their competition for resources. So the fast food restaurants are like different species of animals, different populations of animals, and the money those restaurants are trying to make is akin to the resources in the environment. So here, this table is a generic table. It's made up of 4 restaurants. We're just simply calling A, B, C, and D. And if there's an X in the box, they serve that food item on their menu. So if you want a roast beef sandwich, the only place you're going to get a roast beef sandwich is in restaurant A. The other 3 restaurants do not serve that sandwich. If you want something like a large cheeseburger, you have to go to restaurant B, C, or D. Restaurant A doesn't serve the large cheeseburger, but you can go to either B, C, or D, and they will have large cheeseburgers available. So that's sort of how you read that chart. What you're going to create is some Venn diagrams, just like this diagram here. And we're going to compare 3 restaurants all occupying the same neighborhood. So like in St. Clair, we have Burger King, McDonald's, and Taco Bell are 3 fast food restaurants all occupying the same neighborhood. And we're going to compare their menus and learn about how they learn to coexist. How is it that Burger King, McDonald's, and Taco Bell can all exist in a fairly small space in a fairly small town? So just to recall Venn diagrams, if this is restaurant A, restaurant B, and restaurant C, if it's something that only restaurant C serves, we would write it in this area unique to C, which has got a number 2 in it. We would write a ham and cheese sandwich. I think if you look back at the chart, is something only C serves, nobody else serves. Or The roast beef sandwich we would write in area 6 because that's only something A serves. But if we go back and look at for something that a couple of restaurants serve, so if we're comparing A, B, and C, chicken pieces, A, B, and C, B and C share chicken pieces, so does D, but in this neighborhood, there is no restaurant D, so I just ignore restaurant D because it doesn't exist in this neighborhood. But chicken pieces are reserved by restaurants B and C. So I look for the area shared between B and C, which is area 3, and I would write chicken pieces right in here. If there's a food item that all 3 share, that restaurants A, B, and C all do, I'd put it into area 7. So you're going to create those diagrams, then you'll come back and respond to the questions. After you've done those diagrams, you are going to make a comparison to a real situation in nature. We're going to take a look at a couple different types of blackbirds and how they coexist in a marsh. And then there's some general follow-up questions. Now, I have already created the 3 neighborhoods that you need, so you could just simply print these last 3 pages off to complete your Venn diagrams and then take photos of them. You can also click on them and edit them. It'd be a little bit more involved, and then you simply have to add a text box. So I'd have to add a text box and then write in what food item goes there. So if you don't mind adding text boxes and doing some typing, you can do it all virtual online. Or you can simply print the last 3 pages and do it by hand and then take pictures. That's totally up to you. So I think from there, you should be able to figure out assignment ER-2 without too much difficulty. So let me close that one out and go back. ER-3 is a slide presentation. It's a very simple slide presentation. The directions are in the slide, so you have to open up the slideshow. And basically, for each ecological relationship, in one of the boxes, you're going to provide a written description of the relationship that is listed in the title box. And in the second box, you're going to find an image on the internet that clearly illustrates the relationship. So let me just randomly pick one here. So this one is a relationship known as predation. So in one of these 2 boxes, doesn't matter which one, you are going to give a basic definition, a basic explanation of what predation is. And that typically is going to be 1 or 2 sentences. It should be a complete sentence. Try to put it into your own words. Don't just copy and paste something. Try to actually process what's going on. So, in predation, I might have something that predation is a relationship that involves both a predator and a prey. In this relationship, the predator benefits because it gains energy, and the prey certainly doesn't benefit because it's being killed. That would be a reasonable explanation. And then I would look on the internet for a picture that illustrates predation very clearly and insert that image into the box. And so there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 slides you need to make, each with a short description and a picture. There's also a cover slide. The whole thing, I can't imagine would take you much more than a half hour to complete. So that's assignment ER-3. And then let's take a look at ER-4. ER-4 is a follow-up to the fast food restaurant competition lab. So there is lots of competition. It's hard for everybody to get what they need. And one of the strategies nature has come up with so multiple species can coexist and live in the same area is something called niche partitioning. So in this activity, niche partitioning, it's totally self-paced. I don't think you have any problem following it. Just make sure you read the information. The first part, you're using this graph, and that graph will answer most of the questions in part 1. Part 2, there's a link, and if you're using the Google Doc, the link will work to a short video of about 1 to 2 minutes that will help you with part 2. Then there is a link right here for part 3 that'll help you complete part 3. And then there's a final part which sums up what hopefully you gathered from the activity. So there's nothing special you need for ER-4, just outside of make sure you have those links and those links work. And you can fill the document in just right online. It's all set up to do that for you. You might also, there's also a link to the full video, which we will take a look at the full video in class after we've completed the niche partitioning activity. So after you complete the niche partitioning activity, you may wish to watch this video as well. So that's it, short and simple. That should get you through ER-2, ER-3, and ER-4. If you are in second or third hour, ER-2 is something that we will be working on in class on Monday, and we'll get most of it done in class, and then you'll submit it by Monday night. Okay, I hope that helps, and I hope you enjoy the long weekend.